let me ask you something that might sting a little. How many times have you hidden a part of yourself because you thought she wouldn't like it? Maybe you pretended to love a band you've never heard of. Maybe you lied about your job title to sound more impressive. Maybe you kept quiet when she said something you disagreed with. Maybe you spent an hour getting ready, making sure every hair was in place, every wrinkle ironed out, every flaw concealed. You wanted to be perfect. You thought perfection would make her want you. But here's what actually happens when you try to be perfect. You become invisible because perfect is boring. Perfect is fake. Perfect has no edges, no personality, no humanity. And women don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with real. And real has cracks, real has scars, real has moments of awkwardness, failure, and imperfection. Those are not things to hide. Those are things to share because they are the very things that make you different from every other guy trying to impress her. Think about the most memorable people in your life. Are they the ones who never made mistakes? Or are they the ones who did something embarrassing and laughed about it? The ones who told you about their failures, their struggles, their weird habits? It's the second one. Because perfection creates distance. It makes you seem untouchable, unrelatable, inhuman. But imperfection invites connection. It says, I'm not above you. I'm right here with you. I struggle too. And that invitation is the beginning of intimacy. I want to tell you about a moment that taught me this. I was on a date with a woman I really wanted to impress. I had rehearsed my best stories. I had picked a cool restaurant. I was trying so hard to be the perfect version of myself. And I could feel the distance growing. She was polite, but she wasn't leaning in. Then something happened. I spilled red wine on my white shirt, a big, ugly stain. I froze for a second. Then I just laughed. I said, well, there goes my perfect date illusion. I'm actually a complete mess most of the time. She burst out laughing, not at the stain, at my willingness to be human. And after that, the date changed. She started telling me about her own messes, her own failures, her own embarrassing moments. We connected, not because I was perfect, because I stopped pretending to be. That stain was the best thing that could have happened. It broke the performance. It let her see the real me, and the real me was a lot more interesting than the polished version. Here's the deeper truth. Women are not looking for a flawless man. They are looking for a man who is comfortable with his flaws, a man who can say, yeah, I messed that up without crumbling, a man who doesn't need to be perfect because his worth isn't tied to his performance. That kind of self-acceptance is rare and it is deeply attractive. Think about the opposite. The man who is constantly trying to be perfect is actually communicating insecurity. He's saying, without words, I don't think I'm enough as I am. Let me show you this polished version instead. That energy is exhausting to be around because you're never sure if you're getting the real person or the highlight reel, and everyone knows the highlight reel is fake. I used to spend hours getting ready for dates. I would plan conversation topics. I would rehearse funny anecdotes. I would make sure my outfit was flawless. And you know what? The dates were fine, but they rarely led to a second one because I wasn't really there. I was performing, and performances don't create chemistry. Then I started doing something scary. I started showing up as myself without the polish. I wore clothes I actually liked, not what I thought she wanted to see. I told stories that were true, even if they weren't impressive. I admitted when I was nervous. I laughed at my own awkwardness. And the difference was night and day. Women started leaning in, they started asking more questions, they started texting me first after the date because they had met a real person. And real people are memorable. Let me talk about a specific flaw that men try to hide all the time. failure. We've been taught that failure is shameful, that we need to present ourselves as successful, accomplished together. So we hide our failures. We pretend we've always known what we're doing. We exaggerate our achievements. But here's the thing. Everyone has failed. Everyone has made mistakes. When you pretend you haven't, you're not protecting yourself. You're building a wall, and that wall keeps her out. The most attractive thing you can do is own your failures, not in a self-pitying, poor me way, in a confident, yeah, that happened, and I learned from it way. I started a business that went under. It was brutal, but I learned more from that failure than from any success. I used to be terrified of talking to women. I still get nervous sometimes. When you say things like that, you don't look weak. You look real. You look like someone who has lived, who has struggled, who has grown. That is infinitely more interesting than a polished resume of successes. I remember telling a woman about a time I got fired from a job. I was embarrassed about it for years. But when I finally told her, she didn't judge me. She told me about a time she got fired, and suddenly we were bonding over shared failure instead of pretending to be perfect. That conversation brought us closer than any of my impressive stories ever had. Here's another flaw men hide: neediness. Not the big, obvious neediness. The small stuff, laughing at jokes that aren't funny, agreeing with opinions you don't share, texting back too fast because you're afraid she'll lose interest. These are all attempts to hide the flaw of wanting her approval. But here's the irony. When you stop trying to hide your neediness, you actually become less needy, because the neediness was coming from the fear of being seen as needy. The moment you accept that you want her to like you, that you're a little nervous, that you hope it goes well, you stop performing, and that acceptance is confidence. Try this. Next time you're on a date and you feel nervous, say it. I'm actually a little nervous right now. I've been looking forward to this. Watch what happens. She won't laugh at you. She'll probably say, me too. And suddenly the pressure is gone because you stopped pretending. You showed her a real emotion, and real emotions create connection. I want to talk about the physical flaw obsession. How many hours have you spent worrying about your height, your hairline, your build, your face? You think if you could just fix that one thing, she would want you. But look around. You've seen short guys with gorgeous women. You've seen bald guys with gorgeous women. You've seen guys with dad bods, crooked teeth, imperfect skin, with women who are stunning. How? Because they didn't hide those flaws. They owned them, they didn't make them into problems, and because they didn't care, she didn't care. But when you obsess over a flaw, you make it bigger. You project your insecurity onto her. You assume she's judging you the way you're judging yourself, but most of the time, she's not even noticing the flaw. She's noticing your insecurity about it. That's what's unattractive, not the flaw itself. I have a friend who is 5'5". He's been rejected for his height more times than he can count, but he's also dated women taller than him, stunning women, because he doesn't make his height into a problem. He jokes about it. He owns it. He says, yeah, I'm short. It's never stopped me. That confidence, that refusal to be ashamed is more attractive than 6 feet of insecurity. So here's your challenge. I want you to make a list of your flaws, the things you try to hide, the things you're ashamed of, the failures, the physical imperfections, the embarrassing habits. And then I want you to pick one and own it. Tell someone about it. Not a woman you're trying to impress, just a friend. Say, I've been embarrassed about this, but here it is. Notice what happens. The world doesn't end. The person doesn't run away. They might even share one of their own, and you'll feel lighter, because shame grows in secret. It dies in the light. Then bring that energy to your interactions with women. Don't lead with your flaws, but don't hide them either. When it comes up naturally, own it. Yeah, I'm terrible at dancing, but I do it anyway. I failed at that too. It was a mess. I have no idea what I'm doing in this situation. You will be amazed at how women respond because most men are so terrified of being seen as imperfect that they never let anyone see them at all. You, by being willing to be imperfect, become a breath of fresh air. You become someone she can relax around, and relaxation is the gateway to attraction. I'm not saying you should stop improving yourself. Of course, you should work on your flaws, go to the gym, learn new skills, grow, but do it for you, not to hide the flaw, to become a better version of the flawed human you already are. And while you're on that journey, don't put your life on hold. Don't wait until you're perfect to talk to her. You'll never be perfect. And she doesn't want perfect. She wants real. The most attractive men I know are not the most perfect. They are the most comfortable in their own skin. They have flaws, they have failures, they have embarrassing stories, but they don't hide them. They wear them like badges of honor because those flaws are proof that they have lived, that they have tried, that they have failed and kept going. That is attractive. That is human. That is real.